Hey, Stuffers. If the world is controlled by a shadowy cabal, they are doing a terrible job planning the menu for lunch. Alex here, and welcome back to Stuff with Alex. When analyzing the world's greatest conspiracy theories, the ones that stick around long enough to see a resurgence every time the economy hiccups or a new virus pops up, there is always one name at the center: Rothschild. The family is not just rich, they are, according to legend, the secret landlords of the planet, pulling the strings of every government, bank, and maybe even the local weather channel. The enduring sensational hook for this entire two-century-old saga is a single event: the Battle of Waterloo in 1815. The story goes like this. Nathan Mayer Rothschild, based in London, used an unprecedented network of couriers and carrier pigeons to receive news of Napoleon's decisive loss at Waterloo ahead of the British government. But instead of celebrating Wellington's victory, Nathan allegedly rushed to the stock exchange, spreading panic and dumping his own British bonds, making everyone believe Napoleon had won. When the market crashed, he supposedly bought up the entire British debt for pennies on the pound, making millions and cementing the family's image as war profiteers and clandestine market masters. This sensational maneuver, if true, would mean one family single-handedly bent the fate of the British financial system and built their fortune on national tragedy. The immediate shocking truth, however, is that this entire dramatic 200-year-old origin story is provably false. While the family was undoubtedly influential, and Nathan was certainly shrewd, the story of the bond market manipulation was fabricated years later by a French anti-Semite. The fact that a fictional tale of espionage and greed, designed purely to slander a prominent Jewish family, became the foundation for the most pervasive global financial conspiracy in history is the true deep dive material. The conspiracy itself began as a lie, and every subsequent chapter of the myth has been written in the same ink. The Rothschild story genuinely began in the 15th century Frankfurt Judengasse, a Jewish ghetto in the Holy Roman Empire. The family name itself is derived from the German word Rothschild, or Red Shield, referencing the sign on their family house built in the late 16th century. The family's rise to global prominence, however, begins with Mayer Amschel Rothschild, 1744 to 1812, who established his banking business in the 1760s. He served as a court factor to German nobility, a role that required both financial acumen and political trust. Mayer Amschel made a strategic decision that redefined international finance and, perhaps inadvertently, created the perfect structural blueprint for a conspiracy theory. Unlike previous court factors, he managed to bequeath his wealth and established an international banking family through his 5 sons: Amschel Mayer, Frankfurt; Salomon Mayer, Vienna; Nathan Mayer, London; Kalman Mayer, Naples; and James Mayer, Paris. This establishment of the 5 sons in 5 crucial European financial centers was revolutionary. Mayer Amschel understood the importance of unity and collaboration across generations, formalizing the structure in the first partnership agreement in the 1810s. This multinational structure meant the Rothschilds possessed a private, family-run network that spanned rival nations. During the volatile 19th century, a period marked by constant war and political upheaval, they were capable of managing enormous sums and executing complex transfers that bypassed traditional banking limitations and geopolitical risk. The family quickly possessed the largest private fortune in the world, securing their reputation as indispensable bankers capable of navigating crises. They actively advised and lent funds to European rulers. This factual reality, that they genuinely did possess cross-border influence unparalleled at the time, was interpreted by the public not as impressive financial planning, but as evidence of a secret, supranational authority. The fact that they operated effectively outside the control of any single nation meant they were inevitably viewed as the power behind the governments, blurring the critical line between offering high-level financial advisory influence and clandestine political control. Their official family motto, Concordia Integritas Industria, harmony, integrity, industry,
quickly became a cynical counterpoint to the perceived reality of secret, global manipulation. Drop your wildest theory in the comments. We're only a few minutes in and it's already heating up. Or maybe you just learned more about 18th century financial planning than you ever wanted to know. Let me know. To fully understand the conspiracy, one must dissect the mechanism of its creation, the definitive, enduring myth surrounding Nathan Rothschild and the Battle of Waterloo. The story, as dramatically circulated, claims Nathan shorted the market, making 20 million francs off France's defeat and capitalizing on national misery. This narrative perfectly encapsulates the financial conspiracy trope, profiting from war, market manipulation, and hidden knowledge. The mundane truth is far less cinematic, but far more important to historical context. Nathan Rothschild was not present at Waterloo or even in Belgium. His central role during the Napoleonic Wars involved financing the British troops, an essential but decidedly unexciting act of raising funds. He received early word of the victory and, as a result, the British Commissary-in-Chief noted that Nathan had done well from the early information. However, market analysis of the time suggests that whatever profit he made was very considerably less than £1 million. His success was confirmation of his business plan built on strong family ties and an unsurpassed communication network. The myth's true significance lies in its deliberate, malicious intent. The story was fabricated decades later, in the mid-19th century, by a French anti-Semite named Georges Dinval, who published his slanderous account under the pseudonym Satan. Dinval's goal was not historical record, but explicit character assassination. The complex facts that Nathan helped finance the war effort and benefited modestly were ignored in favor of the simple, sensational narrative of market fraud and immense ill-gotten gains. The persistence of the lie is a testament to the power of narrative simplicity over complex fact, especially when the narrative serves an existing societal prejudice. The conspiracy acts as an intellectual shortcut. Instead of analyzing the financial complexities of war bonds and government debt, the public can latch on to a story about a single, villainous act of market manipulation. This narrative successfully attributed the diffuse consequences of geopolitical conflict to a specific, identifiable figure. The effectiveness of the lie was such that, in 1940, Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister, produced a film, Die Rothschilds Aktionen auf Waterloo, ensuring this baseless claim became a cornerstone of Nazi Germany's anti-Semitic propaganda campaign. The legacy of the lie proves that the accusation of war profiteering and financial manipulation, once established, is nearly impossible to eliminate, paving the way for the family to be blamed for every economic crisis that followed for the next 200 years. The transition from a myth about market manipulation to a theory about global dominance required the name Rothschild to lose its specificity and become a generic placeholder for vast, secretive Jewish power. Today, the family name functions exactly this way. It has evolved into a stand-in for greedy and manipulative Jewish billionaires who are allegedly using their money to secretly control global financial institutions. The core mechanism of this conspiracy is the historical anti-Semitic trope of the clannish Jew. The accusation claims that due to their family ties and historical commitment to unity, the Rothschilds lead a secret clan of global Jewish financial firms who work together unethically, manipulating global events and currency flows for personal enrichment while systematically working against the interests of non-Jews. The theory is fundamentally not about finance, but about identity and power, transposing ancient prejudices onto the complexities of the global banking system. The conspiracy acts as a perfect scapegoat for all of society's ills, allowing political movements of all stripes to exploit the myth and blame Jews for economic crises and social instability, often with devastating real-world consequences. The evidence for the conspiracy's function as a vehicle for prejudice is clearest in the outlandish and expansive nature of the claims leveled against the family. In the 21st century, the Rothschilds had been accused of financing the Nazis, orchestrating the Holocaust to gain sympathy for the creation of Israel, controlling the weather, and inventing the COVID-19 pandemic. Louis Farrakhan, for example, has claimed that Rothschild banks are members of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, a claim that is factually incorrect. This radical adaptability of the conspiracy, its ability to attach itself to everything from 19th century debt to 21st century viral outbreaks, demonstrates that the theory is no longer attempting to describe reality. Instead, the Rothschild name serves as a synecdoche, representing the centuries-old lie that Jews conspire to control the world and profit from its misfortunes. The theory is so effective because it is flexible enough to explain any crisis, replacing complex geopolitical or economic failures with the simple, satisfying narrative of a single, powerful, and malicious actor. If they can convince people the Rothschilds control the weather, what happens when they convince people they control the United Nations and your smart toaster? That's where the New World Order steps in, bringing the conspiracy fully into the modern, digital age. In the last 30 years, the historical Rothschild conspiracy has seamlessly merged with the modern, expansive New World Order theory. The New World Order concept hypothesizes that a secretive power elite with a globalist agenda is conspiring to replace sovereign nation-states with an authoritarian one-world government. Due to their historical prominence and international structure, the Rothschilds are frequently alleged to be a core component of this conspiratorial cabal. The theory claims this cabal operates by orchestrating significant political and financial events, ranging from causing systemic crises to pushing controversial policies, all as ongoing steps toward achieving world domination. Specifically, Rothschilds are now accused of leveraging various global institutions. Proponents claim the United Nations is merely a vehicle through which this shadowy cabal operates. Furthermore, manufactured crises, the COVID-19 pandemic being a recent prime example, are seen as man-made attempts to exert undue control over civilians. This supposed agenda includes the implementation of mind control, such as microchips and surveillance technology, to ultimately enslave citizens, and pushing for legislation, like increased gun control, to subdue the population. The most dangerous, explicit merger of these theories occurs in extremist circles. Right-wing populist movements and militia groups, which have historically embraced New World Order conspiracism, often integrate the anti-Semitic tropes entirely by referring to the New World Order as the Jew World Order. This confirms the Rothschild family's historical persecution has been completely digitized and repurposed for 21st century political extremism, making it a fast-moving, adaptable, and highly toxic piece of digital misinformation. It is worth noting that the New World Order concept has deep, often misunderstood roots in American counterculture. Theorists often misinterpret the Latin phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum, New Order of the Ages, found on the reverse side of the U.S. Great Seal and the dollar bill. This misinterpretation, combined with militant anti-government sentiments prevalent since the early 1990s, allowed the European-centric Rothschild myth to find potent ideological ground within American populist movements. The success of this modern integration demonstrates how easily historical prejudice, combined with economic anxiety, can be amplified through digital platforms, transitioning from slow-to-circulate pamphlets to highly shareable, adaptable online content. Stuffers, smash that like button if you're already confused. And if you've ever had to argue with Uncle Gary at Thanksgiving about the lizard people who control the Federal Reserve, you deserve an executive bonus. The core question that must be answered is whether the Rothschild family currently possesses the quantifiable, monolithic power necessary to run a totalitarian shadow government. To answer this requires moving beyond sensational anecdotes and applying a rigorous, scientifically grounded analysis based on the family's existing, publicly traded financial structure, Rothschild Co.
Rothschild Co. is a family-controlled global financial services group. As a family-controlled business, the firm operates with a focus on long-term stability and growth, unconstrained by the typical pressures of short-term quarterly thinking. Their business model is recognized as stable and sustainable, founded on the guiding principles of being thoughtful, creative, and principled. The group operates 4 established and complementary businesses: global advisory, investment banking, M&A, wealth management, asset management, and 5 arrows, alternative assets. While they are famously known for their high-profile advisory and lending role to governments and major corporations, their actual financial scale, though substantial, does not support the theory of global financial omnipotence. To illustrate this, an analysis of the firm's publicly available 2023 consolidated financial data reveals the quantifiable scope of their current operations, providing empirical evidence against the claims of limitless, unmeasurable private wealth. Rothschild Co., SCA, Key Financial Data 2023. The 108 billion in euros assets under management, AUM, is a significant figure, certainly marking Rothschild Co. as an elite financial institution. However, the global financial landscape is dominated by firms managing in the multi-trillion-dollar range. For example, BlackRock, a leading asset manager, currently handles trillions in AUM. Furthermore, Rothschild & Co.'s 2023 net income of 275 million euros, while impressive, is a verifiable amount that is dwarfed by the annual profits and net incomes of the world's largest national and multinational banks, or even the annual compensation packages of the CEOs of major technology companies. This comparative analysis leads to a crucial deconstruction of the myth. The family's enduring power is not rooted in overwhelming financial volume, but in its soft power, its generational continuity, high-level political access, and advisory prestige. The fact that past chairman Sir Evelyn Robert de Rothschild was the personal financial advisor to Queen Elizabeth II confirms that the family maintains genuine, high-level political influence. However, this high-level relationship management is not equivalent to secret totalitarian command. Conspiracy theorists misinterpret professional advisory excellence and generational prestige for absolute global financial dominance. The evidence confirms the influence is substantial and professional, but it is demonstrably not monolithic or omnipotent. The actual observable power of Rothschild & Co. today is found in its strategic structure and its dedication to the long-term view, which allows the firm to operate effectively as the preferred advisor during complex geopolitical and corporate transitions. The family's success is built upon the same organizational principles established by Mayer Amschel, a dense international network. Today, Rothschild & Co. maintains a broad network of over 60 offices in more than 40 countries, enabling the firm to combine unparalleled local market knowledge with global execution capabilities. This structure ensures that in the highly complex world of cross-border mergers, acquisitions, and government debt restructuring, the firm is often an indispensable partner. This advisory role, particularly within the global advisory division, is where the factual influence lies. They advise governments on major fiscal decisions and corporations on existential transactions. When an investment bank is advising a nation on restructuring sovereign debt or facilitating a massive cross-border merger, they are effectively guiding high-stakes policy and influencing macroeconomic outcomes. The conspiracy theory thrives on the ambiguity of the word advisory. The financial community understands the difference between advising a client and owning the client. However, to the financially uninitiated, the complexity of sovereign debt restructuring is easily simplified into a dark narrative. They control the nation's debt, therefore they control the nation. The fact that the firm's philosophy emphasizes long-term stability and wealth preservation across generations
only feeds the mystique. In a world defined by fast, volatile quarterly profits, a company that views success across centuries appears supernatural, validating the fear that they are manipulating the system from a level far above daily market concerns. The perception of timeless secretive operation is far more dangerous than the reality of their $108 billion AUM. Reviewing the extensive history and the current financial reality reveals a profound contradiction. The myth of the Rothschild family is infinitely wealthier and more powerful than the family itself. The gap between the 19th century reality, unprecedented relative financial prominence, and the 21st century reality, a highly respected, diversified, but quantitatively manageable financial firm, is vast. The persistence of the conspiracy is not proof of its accuracy, it is proof of its utility. The Rothschild myth is primarily a vehicle for enduring historical prejudice and the human compulsion to find simple explanations for complex suffering. Why did the economy crash? Why are we at war? Why is there a pandemic? Instead of attributing these events to diffuse market failures, geopolitical inertia, or scientific randomness, the theory provides a comforting, simple answer. A secret, malevolent, and identifiable clan is manipulating the entire show. This intellectual simplicity comes at a cost, however. The theory perpetuates baseless notions about Jewish power and greed, resulting in the real-world harm of sustained anti-Semitism. The history of the Rothschild conspiracy is, therefore, a history lesson in how economic anxiety, married to historical prejudice, can create a narrative powerful enough to survive centuries of contradictory evidence and thrive in the modern information ecosystem. The family's actual influence is based on diligence, continuity, and prestige. The myth's power is based on fear, simplicity, and blame. Stuffers, if you made it this far, you've basically earned a PhD in financial mythology. Smash that like button if you realize your portfolio is still mostly just hopes and vibes, like mine. After diving into centuries of sensationalism, manufactured crises, and accusations of world control, the real story of the Rothschild family becomes a parable about the seductive nature of extreme wealth and the paranoia it engenders. Whether seen as masterful bankers or shadow rulers, their history underscores a fundamental human struggle with money and power. As a Christian, when reflecting on the sheer volume of greed and ambition that underpins the quest for global domination, whether real or imagined, it becomes clear that this story highlights a profound biblical principle: the wisdom of contentment and the danger of idolatry. True wealth is not defined by the size of one's fortune or the extent of one's control over others, but by the integrity used in its management. The scriptures consistently warn that the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil, and that it is foolish to fix one's hope on the uncertainty of riches. Instead, wisdom is found in diligent effort and sound planning. The path to enduring success, whether for a massive banking dynasty or an individual managing a household budget, lies in steadfast industry and prudence. The Rothschild family, for all the myths attached to their name, achieved their initial factual success through diligence and strategic unity. That diligence, if applied ethically, is the true engine of human accomplishment. There is a timeless wisdom in recognizing that true profit comes not from haste or manipulation, but from careful, honest work. The plans of the diligent lead to profit, as surely as haste leads to poverty. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 5. Okay, thanks for watching. Peace out. Goodbye, guys.